Very good evening to everyone. We are here with yet another virtual session, and today's speaker is so great and how she will explain her journey, professional journey with all of us. So we will introduce our today's speaker. She is Tahsin, and she's doing her PhD, and she is a student now, PhD student at the University of Toronto. She is in the cognitive neuroscience and sensory motor lab under the supervisor Dr. Matthias Nimier. And I welcome you, Tessin, on our OYG platform to share your wonderful experiences in your journey with all of us.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So we will begin with the first question to the last question, and that's how we will continue our whole session. So first question to you, how you professional, how your journey started professionally from a graduation to the PhD, a doctorate course.
Um, so I guess for this, I would have to go back to my high school years. So that's between grade 9 to grade 12. So back then I wasn't really, I guess, that studious. And I remember that when I was applying for university, I really wanted to go to University of Toronto and I wanted to study neuroscience. Um, I remember one of my uh, career counselor just telling me that I don't think you're gonna make it to like a university, let alone like University of Toronto. Um, and I think that really was very discouraging for me to hear that, like her just not having any faith in me. And that was like a point that really changed me. And I just started working really hard. And when I came to university, like I barely made it to university. Um, but I was really lucky that I still somehow made it to University of Toronto. And but then when I started my university, like things from then on just really changed for me because I realized that I was really passionate about neuroscience. And the reason that maybe in high school I wasn't doing as great as I did in university because I didn't necessarily feel that passionate about the things that I was learning. But now I really found something that I really love doing. And I think that when you love doing something, you really excel at it. So, and then from then on, I just tried really hard and yeah, and now I'm doing PhD. I skipped my master's. Uh, I was very lucky to directly get into PhD. It's usually rare. Typically, you need a master's degree to apply for PhD. But in certain cases, if you can show that you have that capability, uh, in rare cases, you can get into PhD right after your undergrad. So yeah, that's kind of how got into PhD.
That's how like a journey started of yours from graduation to PhD. And it is so nice that we can see it's not hard to reach what you think. It's just efforts. If you have, then you can reach to that point. So my next question to you related to what you've explained just now. What points keep you motivated in the field of research?
So the field that I'm in is leaning towards like psychology and neuroscience, so understanding the brain and how it works. I think that in comparison to a lot of other things that I see, like um, in other fields, like if you think of chemistry or physics or biology, there biology is in like just other parts excluding the brain. We have a very thorough understanding of those things, and when you look at technologies, it's really has advanced, but I think that we don't really understand a lot about the brain. um, we already are putting people up in space, but we have no clue what's happening in our mind. And I think that was my motivating factor on why I really wanted to go into neuroscience. I think um, it's a new field too, I would say. Previously, no one thought that you could actually study the mind I mean, if you go back all the way to like Aristotle's time, they thought the heart was like the main thing, and they thought the brain was just there as a cooling system. um, so I think that that's kind of my reason. I think there's just a lot that is out there in terms of neuroscience, and that's my motivating factor. Yeah.
That's always great. See, as I am a student, so that's my personal question too. That every time when we think of something else, we do inspire someone in our life to reach that goal. So, to whom you get inspired in your professional career, and what are the points would you like to share with us that you should have that points in mind always if you want to reach anything in your life?
Mhm. So in terms of people that inspired me, I would definitely say uh, when I took this course and I had my professor, Dr. Steve Jordan's. Um, Before I went to university, I thought that psychology is just like something that it's like what can I say? Like I didn't really know much about it. I just thought that these people they just study other crazy people. That was my understanding of psychology, and I didn't even take psychology as I didn't at first I didn't take it that seriously. I thought that I took it as an elective. And I just I don't know, I didn't have a good view on psychology. I thought that is this even a science course? Typically in um, other universities, I know that sometimes they treat psychology as an arts degree. So I did not look favorably upon psychology. But when I took that course and the way that my professor just explained everything, that I think that really inspired me. Um, yeah, so I would say definitely it was my professor from first year.
That's so nice to listen from you because to whom we inspire, if we reach or we think we can reach to that level, that's most achievable thing in our life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I guess it also is from what I learned is that you should always keep an open mind because when I started university, I had a I thought I wanted to become a doctor, and that's just a very typical thing. Your parents want you to either become a doctor or engineer, but I think it's very important to always keep your mind open because you never know. It's like my that elective course. Had I not taken it, I would not be here today. Um, so yeah, I think it's really important to stay open.
And that's my request to everyone who is watching the session too, that you should keep in mind that what you want to do, if you understand that if you carry that forward, you will happily do whatever you like in your life. And that's what she is doing. So that's why we are here to have a discussion with her. Now we'll go to the topics what you are undergoing your professional career as in PhD. So what are neural network basically and how it works?
So another term that people are more familiar with would be something like artificial intelligence, and sometimes it even goes by terms like machine learning. And what neural network is these brain inspired algorithm. And what they're trying to do is like you give the network some kind of data set, and it's trying to look into relationship within that data set. So that's very much similar to how our brain works, like the biological neurons that we have. And as anyone that knows about the neurons, you know that there's like two states that you can be in. Either it's like active, it's firing, or it's not firing. And that's the same case with neural network. What you have is these processing units that represent these neurons. And we're basically getting it to do tasks very similar to how the human mind works. And the difference between like algorithm for neural networks, in comparison to like something like any other algorithms that are out there. So the way that other algorithms work is typically you would give it some kind of input, and then you give it some kind of function or some kind of rule that has to apply to that, and then you get some kind of output. So I don't know, if I give what's 5 times 2, right? We give it the input, we tell it that the rule that we want to apply is multiplication, and then you get 10. But in neural network, what you do is actually the opposite. You give it the input, you give it the output. So you say that my input is 5 and 2, and then I have 10. And you're getting the network to kind of find that pattern and say, okay, what I'm doing here is multiplication. So I think that is a simple way to put what neural network is about. Um, and it's just used in many areas, like when you think about even something like when you I don't know, you want to go to a place and you're using the Uber app. So then the before you even get on it, it calculates what's the cost, and also um, the drivers that are nearest to you. So these are all done by artificial intelligence, and Siri, and even self-driving cars. So it's really, and it's a new field, but it's something that we're already surrounded by a lot. Yeah.
Thanks for covering multi-more perspective of a simple term neural network. What is the need of current scenario in the health system to understand neural network?
So in the health system, it's neural network is important because especially when I look at neural network, I'm not really specifically thinking of something like uh, Uber, like those Uber apps or Google Maps and all that. What I'm really concerned is like, can I use this neural network as a stimulation for like the brain, as a model for the brain? And so one of the issues, that the reason that we don't understand a lot about neural network is that you can't just, sorry, not neural network. A reason that we don't understand the brain is that you can't just tell a person that, oh, I'm gonna, cut open your brain and I'm gonna put in some electrodes. That wouldn't be ethical, right? So instead of, if you didn't have to rely on like an actual human brain, and you could create like a model that acts similar to the human brain, then you could understand a lot of things. The thing that really holds us back in the field of neuroscience is that much of the research, it's done on like a rats, or mice, or monkeys. So they're the closest that we get. And another case would be like maybe studying patients that are undergoing some kind of brain surgery. In those cases, you can ask them and say that, hey, can I use you as a case study? And in those cases, you could then study their brain, or even stick electrodes in there to learn that. But that's a very um, rare case, and you can't just do whatever you want. And these are usually people that are undergoing some kind of surgery. It doesn't really tell us how the normal brain works. It's really hard to, with the current technologies that we have, it's just not enough. So that's why it's important. It would be nice if we could study something like a neural network. In that cases, we can just do whatever to that network. Like there's even studies that do, like they create these network and then they apply lesions to it. And that's very similar to certain brain damages. And that's how neural network can be used in like the health context. Yeah.
Thank you for your great answer of what I say, because in the current health scenario, we need to understand that artificial intelligence is needed, not to cover the technical part, but it is required in the current scenario, whether we see the most populated country or developed country like India, China, and all, Russia, because these countries need the help of artificial intelligence to cover the most larger perspective of population. So thank you
Mhm.
for that. So my next question would be, how can we help people affected from multiple psychological disorders through artificial intelligence? Is this possible or is just a question till now?
Yeah, I think it is possible because if we could I mean, there has already been a certain scenario where we created like models that replicate certain brain regions, and then you can actually mimic certain disorders in those network and see kind of, and you can use that to understand what's going on in the human brain. And like I said, that um, with with these psychological disorders, the first thing is to understand how the normal brain is functioning, right? Because if you don't know what's happening in the normal brain, then it's really hard to say what's happening in in the person who has a certain psychological disorder, like what's happening to their brain. So in those contexts, I think that neural networks can be used. And there's even cases like this is not specific to psychological disorder, but people that don't have limbs, like either they're losing an arm or like a leg, and they have to rely on like prosthetics. So one thing that would be really, I mean, I think we are going towards that lane is that if we could attach like a robotic arm and then have the signals from the brain control that. So the brain computer interfaces, I'm sure many of you have heard of it. So if we understand like how to read those brain signals, we can actually use that to control something that's this artificial. And you know that would be beneficial for someone who doesn't have an arm or legs. So, you know, they could just use these robotic arms. And another case would be that um, in terms of classifying like different MRI scans or CT scan. So right now, obviously, we have radiologists that you know looks into different um, like a CT scan or MRI scan, and they try to come up with a diagnosis. But it is actually shown that things like convolutional neural networks, so that is a specific type of neural network, it focuses on image analysis. They actually outperform, and they have a higher accuracy than someone who has like years of experience as a radiologist. So I think that's also another way that artificial intelligence um, can improve the health system. That yeah. Yeah, and that's all I have to. That's
Okay,
all I could think of right now.
yeah, no problem. So my next question would be related to what you have answered. Maybe just you can clear me out how we can improve our mechanism for the awareness of artificial intelligence in the health system.
So what exactly do you mean
Means
by
in
that?
our today's health system, many of the doctors and students are not aware what exactly artificial intelligence work. Is there any mechanism to help in the process of awareness?
Mhm. I think that the main thing is that different faculties, like different departments, they need to start like communicating with one another. Different, I mean, like different areas of science. So um, we know that in computer science, people that are in the computer science field or engineering field, they're very much they're always trying to advance in terms of like robots or artificial intelligence, right? And we do that for daily applications. But I think that it's very rare for like a doctor or someone in the medical field to you know go into like think about things like how you can use something like coding to make the healthcare system better. And I think that um, what how we can help like how we can overcome this problem is just really opening up different areas and having people from other areas to just interact with one another. I think that right now, science is still not as open. And usually it's like engineers, they do that, and computer science people, they're involved in like application stuff, and they don't necessarily think about the healthcare system as much. And doctors, they are just focused on like the biology part. And the problem here is that, computer science, they're not thinking of creating machines that are biologically similar, right? When they think of doing this, that's not the thing that they have in their mind. Whereas in the medical field, they're just focused on medicine and coming up with therapies and like medicine that you can use. They don't necessarily consider that there's this whole other area that's out there. And I think it's just gonna involve like collaboration for people from one field to another. And for someone like in the medical field to also maybe start looking into um, learning some of the concepts in computer science and applying that. So, yeah, I would say collaboration with other areas.
That's how if different universities do MOU with different projects, what you were discussing right now, that would not help us, but that would create something else, and which is required in the current scenario of health system.
Mhm.
So my next question would be about research, that if I am a student and I am interested in research, what would be your advice to start my journey in the research?
Mhm. So the first thing is just reading a lot of papers that are current, right? Because the thing is, in the science field, like especially in something like neuroscience, like we will learn something like 4 years ago, and then and now it's like those ideas, they say, okay, we're completely wrong. This is, so it's really important to have that reading skill. So I think if you're someone that wants to go into the research field, reading is something that you have to definitely prioritize. You should be able to just read something very complex and be able to break it down and actually understand. And I think that in in many of the scientific papers, they are just using very complex words, but it can be simplified. And I think that's really important, to be able to take something complex and break it down into simpler. So that's one thing. And Another thing is, you know, talking to other people. Just if you have some kind of idea, just you should share that with other people, and taking that initiative, like, hey, I think this is something um, that I'm interested in doing. And getting research experience would be another one. So um, definitely like reach out to different professors and say, and even if they're not paying you, like I remember that the first 2 years that I was doing research as an undergrad, I just applied as a volunteer. And I worked for like 6 7 hours or like each week, and that's already on top of all the courses and the extracurriculum that I was doing. I had to give that time, and I wasn't really getting paid for that, but I was very passionate, and I really wanted to make something out of it. So I think those experiences also helped me. Because like I said, that I usually you would need a master's degree to go into PhD. Um, but I was able to skip that part. So I was able to skip 2 years of study because I first of all, I reached out to the professors. So Dr. Matthias Niemeyer, the lab that I work in, I was already volunteering with them, and even though I wasn't getting paid, but I put that extra time, and I really tried to learn what you would learn in masters while I was also doing my undergrad. And also showing an interest, like if you really love something and you can just really talk about it. Like if someone asks me, like talk about the brain. I can just go on and on. Um, so when you can show people that, I really am passionate about this, and you have those networking opportunities, right? Don't just, like, you could be very intelligent, but then you're someone that doesn't go out and talk to people. No one's going to know what you have. And sometimes grades are not enough. Like, I would definitely say I'm not really one of those people that always had like A pluses and everything. I didn't. But I would still say that there was a lot of people that had higher grades than me that I was able to surpass, just because I showed them that I had the practical experience and that I was willing to work hard for it. Um, So yeah, and I also talked to a lot of people and I made those connections. I think that's really important as a student if you want to go into the research field. I hope that answered the question. I didn't go into too many technical things.
The technical part would not be required to guide a student because that's a different kind of perspection if you see in that field. There are two or three questions, not a question, just an advice from you. What are the three books you like everyone should read? Three books or novels or anything.
Um, I don't know if I can just name something on the top of my head because I, after I came to my field, I realized that it's so new, it's such a new field that there isn't even a proper book that I can say that you can read this book. And if I tell someone to read a book and right, that would just mean that those information probably by now is up, like, outdated. Um, I would definitely, I always lean more towards reading papers, scientific papers
What would be the three
by,
papers if we talk the best papers what you have gone through till now? Only one paper if you name it, or you just name the scientist or the researcher.
um, so I am obviously, because I'm in Matthias Niemar's lab, I am a big fan of like the paper that he does. He has I think every year he comes up with like 5, 6 different publications. And he is someone that's really open-minded. Like, he just does so many um, different things. And in terms of books, I guess if I had to say one, I would say it's my favorite was I can't think on top what the textbook was called, but I think it's something like neural network from scratch in Python. And I forgot the name of the author, but that was a book that I really liked because when I started doing neural networks, this is usually an area for someone in computer science, and I had almost zero experience with coding at that time. And I think that textbook like really, um, I guess in a way I would say that dumbed it down for me to understand. um, and they just took really complex things and just made it very simple. And then it's a pretty big book, but at the end of it, like, you understand so much that I've come to a point where I can, even though I didn't do computer science, but I can look at someone maybe in their third or fourth year computer science and look at their code, and I can make sense of what is happening. Before this, I just thought that was just something um, you see on movies where, there's like hackers or whatever, they're trying to typing really fast and then things pop up. That was my understanding of coding back then. But I think reading that book, I was able to make sense of a lot of things now, but I still have a lot of learning that I still have to do. Yeah.
Definitely, learning does not stop any day in any age. So that's very
Yeah.
true. And I'll tell those who are watching this that if you want to know what the book name is, we'll give her LinkedIn profile link so you can ask her anytime. So she will give you the book name, what she was telling us that about what the book name is. What are the three qualities a researcher should have, and you should feel that if I am a researcher, that quality should be there? three qualities, if you can mention.
So if I'm talking about aside from, I'm not gonna go into like the typical basic ones, which is just, you have to work hard and being patient and all that. I would say when if you're coming into this field, having a thick skin is really important. And I say this because when you're submitting papers, people are always going to criticize that. And it's not that, like in the science field, when you're being criticized, you're being critiqued, it's not a bad thing, like, you would face in your everyday life where if someone puts you down, like people are criticizing so that you can improve the quality of your paper. And another thing would be like, don't be discouraged, because there's so many cases where people spend like 2 3 years working on something and it doesn't go the way they wanted it to. So not to give up your hope in those kind of cases. I think especially in PhD, we don't have something like a grading system that's going to say, okay, you study hard and you're going to get that A+. No, you could be very hardworking, and and maybe someone else, they're not as hardworking as you are, but it's just that you have to keep at it. Like, don't give up. And it's a lot of luck. Luck has like you might have this great idea, but maybe you just later on you realize that it's not very practical, or you don't have enough funding to go through the entire project. So that's also another thing I would say. Just keeping at it, don't give up. um, it is a very frustrating field. You could be doing all kinds of data collection, and even something like you as a researcher, you might really care about what you're doing, but other people, they might not care as much. So when you have like a lot of times we do behavioral studies, so we have participants coming in and they don't really care about what you're doing. Like maybe you're giving them some, like you're paying them a certain amount and they're just coming in and doing that. So yeah, those type of things is something you have to deal with. And another thing is selling yourself out there. Like, we live in a world where it is so important to have those social networks now. You can be very, like I said before, you could be very smart, but and very intelligent, and you are very creative. But if you're not going out there, kind of like promoting yourself, no one's gonna know what you are. So selling yourself, I think, is also important. So those are the three things.
One more thing I'll add in your talk are the 3 points, the patience. If you are a patient in the research, maybe you'll get the very good results. Otherwise, it's very hard to get through the journey of a researcher.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to complete, as I say, a journey of a student, a journey of a researcher student who have described. It's not easy, but it's not hard. If you are interested, if you are have that enough capability or credibility to do what research is, it's the best you can do. Thank you so much, Tashin. You came to our platform and shared so many things. Maybe you're the first time you're coming and sharing with all of us. So what
Yeah,
would
no
be a
problem. I really enjoyed.
yeah, so what would be your parting thoughts to all who are watching this session?
Um, I guess two things I would like to say is that a lot of times when I talk about neural network, I know some people have this fear, like, does that mean that machines are going to take over, or are they better than us? And like I have to kind of always explicitly mention this, like, I don't think that the machines is um, better than us in any way. Because although I said that it's very likely that some field like radiology or um, other similar areas may um, start to disappear because of these machines that we have, um, and the advancement that we have. But the thing is, like, um, we're still like I still think that the human brain is so much more complex than a machine. For me to train a network would it requires having thousands, sometimes even millions of data sets. But if you think about like a human brain, it doesn't take that many it doesn't take that many data sets for you to learn something. So if I'm a person, I'm like a child, I'm trying to learn how to pick something up with my hand, and I need to have certain coordination. It's very like I don't need to go through so many trainings to be able to do that. Whereas machine, like um, they need a lot of data sets to be able to do something simple. So that's one thing I guess I would like to say, because I talk so many good things about neural network. Oftentimes people think that that means that okay, maybe we're not as superior. So that's one thing. And another thing is that um, I already mentioned this before, but just staying open to everything. uh, it's really important. Like um, you might have a certain goal and you have a certain vision of where you want to be in life, but if you're not open to it, you might miss out on a lot of things. And I think that especially when we go to when we're in high school, or even in universities, when we're not exposing ourselves to different things, then um, you might just end up having like a very average life, because what you're following is a very stereotypical line. But you have to have these open, I think it's important to have these openness, because then you might do something that's very different. And I think in PhD, that's what it really is like. Just not like you have to come up with something novel, and to come up with something novel, that means you can't think like how everyone else tells you to think. You have to think differently. So yeah, I think that's what I had to say.
Thank you for your concluding parting thoughts. That was so nice because I must say three things for your session. You have covered as a student this session, not experienced professor or lecturer. And that's what I connected with you, and those who will watch to this session, they will connect to you. And that's how I was looking forward to connect with you for this session. Secondly, the information was given in such a, what we say, hierarchy. It was not given like first that and this. It was in a hierarchy manner. So it was so understood, like that we have to go in a certain process. Directly you can't go like I'll just enroll myself in PhD. You have to work, you have to understand your professors, you have to work with them, you have to lean yourself in that part of
Mhm.
research, and then you can enroll. And that's
Mhm.
how you will get to know your interest. And third would be your simplicity to explain everything in a so good way.
Thank you
So
so much,
these
Reza.
three things I've learned from you. So thank you so much. And thank you for your wonderful session, I must say, and for your time too to connect with our team, OYG, and all the students.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Like I previously never been asked for something like this, but I really enjoyed. Yeah, I would really like to help people, because I know I didn't have a lot of advice myself that I wish someone had told me before. But I guess that, yeah. So I really liked the idea when you approached. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll end our session. Have a nice day for you and have a nice evening or late night for us. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good day.
Thank you.